In the winter of 1883, the United States Army faced a medical impossibility. Inside the barracks of Fort Keogh, Montana, soldiers were freezing to death while sitting directly next to iron stoves. These men were equipped with the best wool blankets the quartermaster could issue. They slept in insulated buildings. They were backed by the full industrial might of American manufacturing. Yet every single morning, the infirmary was filled with new cases of severe frostbite. 3 miles away, on the exact same plains, Lakota families were sleeping in tents made of skin. Their walls were thinner than cardboard. They were battered by the exact same wind of 32 below zero. They had no iron stoves. They had no factory-made insulation. They had no walls thicker than a cured buffalo hide. And they were warm. Surgeon Major James Kimball filed a report that winter that baffled his superiors in Washington. He had examined the Lakota shelters. He had documented their clothing. By every measure of Western military science, these families should have been suffering far worse than his soldiers. But they weren't. The Army had resources. The Lakota had physics. Before we reveal the lost technology that kept them alive, we need your help to preserve this knowledge. Please subscribe to Survival Lost Vault, hit the like button, and share this with someone who values self-reliance. Because what you are about to learn could save your life when the power goes out. Major Kimball's report wasn't an anomaly. It was part of a pattern. European explorers had been documenting and failing to understand this for centuries. Lewis and Clark recorded the same confusion crossing the northern plains in 1804. Mountain men in the 1830s learned survival skills from native tribes, or they died. The ones who survived described the techniques as mysterious, almost mystical. They couldn't explain it because they were looking for a machine. But the technology was a rock, not just any rock. Soapstone, heated in fire, wrapped in hide, and placed near the body. It wasn't a primitive comfort. It was a thermal battery, a sophisticated energy storage device capable of holding heat for 8 to 12 hours, long enough to sleep through the coldest night of the year and wake up warm instead of frozen. For at least 8,000 years, Native Americans from the Pacific coast to the eastern seaboard quarried this specific soapstone. Archaeological sites at San Clemente Island show soapstone artifacts dating back to 6000 BCE. This wasn't a resource of convenience. It was a resource of necessity. Tribes traveled 60 miles by canoe across the open ocean just to acquire it. They fashioned it into cooking vessels and boiling stones, but always without fail, they fashioned it into bed warmers. They weren't making art. They were manufacturing survival infrastructure. They understood that in the deep winter, heating the air is inefficient. You need to heat the person. Soapstone isn't magic. It is geology optimized for survival. The rock is primarily steatite, a metamorphic rock composed largely of talc. You might know talc as the soft mineral in baby powder, but when compressed under millions of years of tectonic pressure, it becomes a dense, heat-absorbing mass with a unique molecular structure. The scientific measurements tell the story that Major Kimball could not understand. A study published in the ACS Omega Journal in 2023 finally confirmed what the ancients knew. Soapstone has a heat capacity that seems to defy logic. It absorbs nearly 1 full joule of energy for every gram of mass. Most materials, like steel or iron, have high thermal conductivity, but low thermal capacity. That means they get hot very fast, and they dump that heat just as quickly. If you sleep with a hot piece of iron, you will burn your skin for the first hour and freeze for the next 7. Soapstone is the opposite. It has high density but low thermal conductivity. It acts like a sponge for fire. It absorbs energy gradually, soaking it deep into its core. Then, because the heat has to navigate through a dense, chaotic crystal lattice, it releases that energy slowly. It creates a thermal lag. It does not just store energy, it meters it out. Research on soapstone masonry heaters found that a 3-hour fire could provide 16 hours of sustained radiant heat. It flattens the curve of energy release. And here is the critical engineering feature that made it superior to every other stone. Soapstone is virtually immune to thermal shock. If you take a granite river rock and throw it into a roaring fire, the water trapped inside expands, and the rock explodes like a grenade. Cast iron cracks if heated unevenly. But soapstone has such a low coefficient of thermal expansion that you can heat it to 1600 degrees Celsius and plunge it directly into freezing water, and it stays intact. Native Americans understood this empirically through thousands of years of testing. Materials science finally caught up in the 21st century to measure what they already knew. When European settlers arrived in North America, they saw this technology in action, and they copied it immediately. They realized that in a frontier without coal delivery or electricity, this rock was the only way to ensure sleep during a blizzard. By the mid-1800s, soapstone bed warmers were standard household items across America. The Vigo County Historical Society in Indiana still displays them. The main memory network archives catalog dozens of them. Every historical society in a cold climate state has examples because every family had them. Victorian Americans called them foot warmers. They were heated on parlor stoves in the evening, wrapped in thick wool, and carried to bed. They were tucked into sleighs for winter travel to keep feet from freezing on long journeys. An 1875 advertisement in a New York newspaper sold them as essential household goods. Even as steam heat became common, people clung to the old bed warmers of their grandmother's days. Why? Because they worked better than the alternatives. They worked better than metal bedpans filled with hot coals, which cooled in an hour and filled the room with carbon monoxide. They worked better than ceramic hot water bottles, which leaked and lost heat rapidly. Soapstone represented functional, reliable, reusable heat storage that lasted literally centuries. Museums across New England display warmers from the 1700s that could be pulled out of a glass case, thrown in a fire today, and work just as well as they did 300 years ago. And then, it disappeared. It did not vanish because it stopped working. It disappeared because someone figured out how to turn warmth into a subscription service. In 1912, S.I. Pop Russell founded the Russell Electric Company, creating the first mass-market electric warming pad. By 1921, the company, later renamed Northern Electric, was mass-producing them. The 1920s saw explosive growth. General Electric and Westinghouse jumped into the market. By 1930, electric heating pads were advertised as modern, scientific, and hygienic. They painted the old ways, the heated stones, as primitive, dirty, and obsolete. But there was a hidden economic agenda. Electric pads required electricity, which meant monthly payments to the newly formed power monopolies. They contained wire filaments that grew brittle and broke, which meant replacement purchases every few years. They created a stream of recurring revenue. A chunk of rock heated in a fire creates zero revenue. Once you own the rock, you own the heat. That is a disaster for a growing industrial economy. Look at the timeline of this erasure. In the 1890s, soapstone warmers were common. By the 1940s, newspaper articles referred to them as relics. World War II briefly brought them back when fuel rationing meant people could not afford to heat their homes. A 1944 article noted that with fuel shortages, a hot soapstone under the feet may be all that is necessary. But the moment the war ended, the industry resumed its campaign. Modern, convenient, scientific. By 1960, you could not buy a soapstone warmer in any major department store. By 1980, the memory was gone. The knowledge did not fade naturally. It was actively pushed out by a marketing machine that positioned electric dependence as progress. Today, the heating pad industry generates $54.3 billion globally. North America alone spends $2.28 billion on electric mats that last 3 years before burning out. The average electric heating pad costs between $30 and $100. They consume electricity every single night. Over a 20-year period, between replacement pads and power bills, a single person will spend over $550 just to keep their feet warm. Chemical hand warmers are even worse. The global hand warmer market reached $1.62 billion in 2024. Brands sell single-use packets of iron powder. You use it once, throw it in the trash, and buy another one. If you used them daily during a winter, you would spend $240 a season. Compare that to soapstone. Cost is 1 afternoon of scavenging or $20 at a supplier. Maintenance is 0. Lifespan is 500 years. The fundamental problem that nobody in the industry wants to discuss is that you cannot meter a stone. You cannot sell a subscription to physics. A heating system that requires no replacement parts generates no recurring revenue. That is exactly why soapstone had to disappear. But off-grid communities are rediscovering it. Survivalists and homesteaders have realized that when the grid fails, an electric blanket is just a heavy, useless sheet. Modern soapstone stove manufacturers sell units for thousands of dollars that heat homes for 24 hours from a single fire, using the exact same principle the Lakota used for free. You do not need to buy expensive products. You do not need vintage reproductions. You just need to understand the principle and apply it safely. Here is how you reclaim this technology. First, find your battery. You can buy soapstone from stone suppliers or find scraps from countertop fabricators. You are looking for a piece that weighs between 2 and 4 pounds. If you cannot find soapstone, you can use other dense rocks, but you must be incredibly careful. Never use river rocks or any porous stone found near water. Moisture trapped inside will turn to steam when heated and cause the rock to explode violently. Soapstone is the safest option, but dense, dry granite can work if handled with extreme caution. Second, the charging phase. Heat it slowly. Do not throw a cold stone directly into a roaring fire. Place it near the fire on the hearth or on top of a wood stove. Let it warm gradually over 30 minutes. This soaking period ensures the heat penetrates to the core without shocking the stone. You want it to reach around 150 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Third, the insulation. Wrap it in layers of wool, cotton, or heavy flannel. This serves 2 purposes. It protects your skin from burns, and more importantly, it throttles the heat release. The wrapping acts as a valve, ensuring the stone stays warm for 8 hours rather than hot for 2. Finally, placement. Strategic positioning is key. Do not just put it anywhere. Place it at the foot of your sleeping bag or under the covers at the bottom of the bed. Your feet act as radiators for your body. By keeping your feet warm, your blood circulates that warmth to your core, maintaining a stable body temperature all night. In power outages, when your thermostat is dead, this works. In camping situations, when you cannot carry heavy propane heaters, this works. In emergency shelters, when modern infrastructure collapses, this ancient technology becomes cutting-edge survival. They did not just replace soapstone bed warmers with electric heating pads. They erased the knowledge that heat can be stored without a power outlet. They convinced 3 generations of Americans that staying warm requires a monthly bill. They positioned dependence as progress. A Lakota family in 1883, sleeping comfortably at 32 below zero with heated soapstone, had more thermal independence than most modern Americans do today. That is not romantic primitivism. That is physics. The electric heating industry generated $54 billion last year, selling you a fragile solution to a problem humans solved 8,000 years ago with a hot rock. They classified traditional knowledge as primitive because they could not patent it. They replaced physics with subscriptions. They built an empire on making you forget that heat storage does not require electricity. But the knowledge survives. It survives in museum collections, it survives in archaeological sites, and it survives in the empirical testing of people who refuse to accept that warmth must come from a grid. And now, you have it back. If this video opened the vault for you, like the video and make sure you are subscribed to Survival Lost Vault. Share this with the people you want by your side when the grid goes down. We are just getting started exposing the techniques they buried and the skills you need.